Today we are talking about more bitch rules. When is she going to shut up about this? Never. Never.
Welcome to the Good podcast. I'm your host, Dee Talley, mama, licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, and embodiment coach. Here we dive deep into the realms of energy, consciousness, awareness, empowerment, and personal transformation to help you create a more vibrant and juicy life.
Okay, I did a post on social media yesterday where I was talking about how oftentimes when we get to these further emotions like resentment, we have already blown by so many other small signals. So the thing is, our body is always giving us little tidbits of information for us to interpret. And what's fascinating is sometimes people get to these big, huge emotions and they're like, how did I get here? How did I get here? And you got here because your body is speaking a language and nobody ever taught you how to hear it. Bitch rule number 1 is a bitch knows her body is law. And for somebody who has never done embodiment work or doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, this might feel very abstract. So I want to talk about what it is and what it isn't. I also want to call myself out. I want to call myself out because in the holistic health and embodiment world, it feels like the brain gets a really bad rap because it's almost like we're warring between the two, right? You've got your brain and you've got your body, and the brain is bad. We need to be in our bodies. Bad brain. Like, it's kind of silly. So I'm calling myself out because I do this too, because without our brain's ability to interpret what our body is feeling, our senses, we will not know what the hell is going on, right? We villainize our brain because of overthinking and because of how extreme things can get when you stay so cerebral. But without your brain's ability to interpret, you will not know what the hell is going on. Okay, so your brain is not the devil. It's a very important tool for you. So let's not villainize any of it. Let's not villainize any of it. Let's just leave it as full-on information. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what this bitch rule is and what it isn't. Because when people hear a bitch knows her body is law, it can get misinterpreted, right? So here's what it isn't. It isn't like this impulsive thing or like a self-indulgence. So it's not just do whatever feels good, because obviously it feels good to eat a full box of donuts, to take a hit of a drug, right? So we have to discern because of our neurotransmitters. Our brain can sometimes say something feels really good when it's not actually good, right? So this comes back to the discernment piece. For example, when there's a huge imbalance in your gut flora, your brain is going to literally tell you that you need sugar, like it's a drug, right? So this isn't a self-indulgent, impulsive type of do whatever feels good. This is using your body as information, using your body as data, using your body as a truth teller, as a protector, as something that knows before your brain catches up. So this is a lesson in trust. So when I say that your body is law, I mean it as a way to interpret what is going on. Now, for people who are new to embodiment work, it's almost like trying to learn how to tap your belly and rub your head at the same time, because many people will say, I can't actually do this when I'm with other people. Like, it takes a level of concentration to have awareness of your body when you're in social situations, when there are a lot of energies around, right? With practice, you will then be able to notice those little tiny little pings of, oh, that doesn't feel right in my body. And we're going to go over examples of body no's and examples of body yeses, with the caveat that somebody's full body no and full body yes might be vastly different. So the reason why I love holistic medicine and the reason why I love embodiment work is because this is not like a one size fits all. And this is why I love Chinese medicine, because there are disease patterns. There are different patterns as to why a condition might be unfolding. So embodiment is the exact same way. I am not in your body. Okay, so I don't know exactly what you are experiencing day to day. And I also want to explain too, with compassion and with kind of neutrality as well, is like the signals can get crossed, right? So for somebody who has been in a very bad place and they just start to experience joy, there might not be a good feeling related to joy, almost like a secondary joy. Oh no, what's wrong, right? Because it's different from what you were actually experiencing. So the signals can get crossed. So this takes a little bit of experimentation, curiosity, time, and data, just collecting data over time. So that's what I mean by experimental. By experimenting, you can come up with your full body yes and full body no kind of framework of what it is for you. So I can give you tons of examples of what they are for me or what I've seen they have been for patients. But really, this is like, it's going to take you to do some exploration on this. When you practice with enough time, you will get to a place where you can start to feel this when you're in large groups of people, when you're in conversations with people. It's almost like this thing that's happening underneath the surface, and it's always happening anyway. Regardless of whether or not you are aware of it, your body is always feeding you so much information. And whether or not we can tune into it is how you're going to start interpreting that language. I want to talk about examples of no's, because that was what the I had spoken about by the time you get to resentment, you've already blown by all of the cues, right? And then we are stuck wondering, like, what happened? I don't know what happened, right? So examples of no's are sensations in the chest or chest constriction, right? So this is like heaviness, pressure, discomfort, something in the jaw, like tightness, clenching. Maybe your stomach drops, or you have a sensation in your body of dread, or you start over explaining yourself, right? Or you get irritated, or you're tired, or you feel heaviness, or all of a sudden you feel anxious. This could also be nervous system freeze, where you shut down, you maybe get really quiet, you start fantasizing about what you really want to do, like cancel. These are all the signs that tell you that something is up, right? But if we fully blow by all of it, then we get to this kind of bubbling point, and this is where rage, resentment, and some of our bigger body emotions and bigger body feels live. Because what I'm saying is, this is very subtle at first. Like, you might not actually know that this is happening. Most of us aren't actually listening until our body starts to get loud, really loud. It starts with the whisper, then it goes to the nudge, and then eventually, if you haven't been listening, it goes to the scream. And the scream is what is wildly inconvenient. The scream is when you have no other choice but to change something, right? And we can talk about hardships, like the scream might be you're ill, you need to take a break, you need to call off work, etc., etc. There are various reasons why somebody might ignore. And one of them is that it could be potentially inconvenient. So I have been sticking with this mantra for a little while for myself and for others, is like, just because you're really good at something doesn't mean that you should keep doing it. And I originally had a friend who took Energy Awareness Foundation, so the course that I teach, and she said, Dee, I realized how much I do not listen to myself. And what happened was it caused her to go down a road of a kind of a big life change. And of course it's scary. And of course it's like something new and different. But she got to this place of being like, you know what? Like, I just can't override myself anymore. That is the magic of the work. But getting to the point and logistics of like, okay, how do we make those big changes, in recognizing that this is a really big nervous system shift, right? This is a really big change. And this happens all the time, especially when I'm doing acupuncture and people are coming into their bodies and they're realizing all the ways in which they've been overriding themselves. They get to this place of like, wow, now that I see it, I can't unsee it. And there might actually be action steps here to make my life better, to come to a place of alignment and of waking up every day and loving your life. And I'm hesitating because I want to talk about my own personal example of this, which has been rolling around in my head for a really long time, but is kind of starting to get more and more like a scream, is the fact that I've known for a really long time that one-on-one patient care, I'm transitioning out of that. Now, in what capacity, I haven't exactly nailed down, but I just last week went on a vacation, and it had been a long time since I've been on a vacation. And when I was coming back to Monday, and I didn't have the Sunday scaries or anything, so I try to be very in the moment and not quite think about it. But when I was driving into the office, my body was in revolt. I was like feeling ill. I was like, I don't want to go. Like I had all of those feelings. And I kept hearing that same thing that I said, which is just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you should keep doing it. Because I had noticed a few years past that I knew that one-on-one patient care was not my end all be all thing that I wanted, right? And forever it was like, this is what I'm going to retire doing. I want to do this full time. And as I've gone and scaled back and started to kind of change the way that I do things and reduce the number of patients that I'm taking per hour, because essentially I could be as busy as I want to be. And this is a blessing. And I want to just say, I'm not saying this like I'm ungrateful, because I think it's amazing. It's a blessing to be able to be busy. I think that's really amazing. And also, the interesting thing is when I arrive and when my patients are there and I'm sitting in front of them, it's almost like I can flip a switch where I'm like, "Oh no, I'm here. I've arrived." And it gets to be sneaky like that, because on the one hand, I'm driving in and I'm like, "Ugh, I really am not sure that I want to be here." And then I sit in front of my first patient and I'm like, "Boom, I'm here." Right? And so this is what I mean about experimenting. It gets to be both. It gets to be everything. And it's kind of messy for me to be talking about this in real time, although it's not really in real time. This has been brewing for a really long time. I'm a very honest person, and I might even be honest to a fault. I'm not fully exiting the one-on-one patient care realm, but I do notice that my body has been whispering and is nudging me a little bit more now. And this is kind of like a put up or shut up, practice what you preach kind of situation, because this is the reason for doing all the other things that I have been doing, like podcasting, online content creation, teaching, and just feeling lit up in other ways. So, the reason why I'm so passionate about teaching people how to lead vibrant and juicy lives is because for the majority of my life, that's been my experience. Like, waking up and feeling alive and so on fire for your life. And it gets to be this big mix of emotion. It gets to sometimes be confusion or lack of clarity. And it just gets to be something that we continue to feel into and decide what's right for us. And it's hard. It's hard in a way, because for me specifically, to think about never doing one-on-one patient care scares me and excites me. And it gets to be all of those pieces all rolled into one. And it's not something that I have to actually decide to do or don't do. But when we get those body nudges, it's asking something of us. It's asking to listen. And this is what I mean by, if you're not listening, it just keeps going. It just keeps nudging and it gets louder and louder and louder and louder. On the opposite end of the spectrum, when you have a yes in your body, it feels like turn on. It feels like aliveness. It feels like, and you actually might even get body physiologic turn on, like arousal. It feels like expansion, openness, ease, a feeling of just more you. Your energy might increase. You have this aliveness. That is the snake tracking the scent. Where we feel that aliveness, that excitement, we follow it, right? But again, back to what I was saying about do whatever feels good for you, indulgence, impulsiveness. Sometimes we can get tricked into following those little cues and realizing it's just not all the way true. And that's where our brain and our body, being in harmony and helping us discern what is actually the next step. Women override their bodies for so many reasons. Maybe they want to be good. Maybe they want to people please. Maybe it's because of motherhood, right? Motherhood, one of the most challenging aspects of our life, and society tells us should be the best part of our life, should be the most fulfilling, should be the place where we feel the happiest and the most lit up. Of course, we can put all of the things above us, our kids, our partners, our houses, and then be left wondering why we are on empty, why we were at the dregs of our energy. Productivity tells us that we need to be accomplishing. I just had a patient yesterday who came in. I haven't seen her in a while, and she came in for anxiety, sleep, and just nervous system regulation. She's caught in this loop of productivity and like worth being tied to being productive. So when I came back in the room and I was like, were you able to get a little bit of relaxation? And she was like, kind of. And I kind of asked her like, well, what was going on? And she said, I laid here thinking of all the things that I could be doing. And like, yeah, these little needles will help you come into your body. But there does reside choice, right? There does reside choice. And the other thing that's interesting about nervous system regulation is sometimes acupuncture becomes just like a time for processing. And so that doesn't always mean that the second that you lay down on the table and get all your needles in, you're going to immediately be like, oh, I released, right? Like I'm healed. I'm centered. I'm whole, right? Sometimes in acupuncture, you will be laying there and your body will actually be undergoing a process, whether your nervous system is looping, whether you are thinking. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable in that way where and I always say the same phrase, you get the session that you need, not necessarily the session that you want. And I'm sure that she would have preferred to just come and lay down and be out. And that's just not how it was, right? And so this is why sometimes it really does take, sometimes, most times, it really does take repeated sessions with body awareness, with permission, because the needles don't automatically give permission. We also have to invite ourselves to recognize that rest is also extremely productive, especially as women, especially when our nervous systems are absolutely fried, and as mothers and all the things that we do, which is so crazy. Sometimes I say, like, I think I'm going to look back on certain times in my life and be like, what the actual fuck? What the fuck is happening? How did I do that? That was crazy. Another important piece of this bitch rule and just working with your body and your brain in harmony is that, and people don't realize this, and I talk about this, and I talk about this online and in my courses and with my friends and all the things, is we can use our bodies to make decisions, especially big life decisions, because it's going to tell us truth. And I used this little exercise, and I use it with, you know, I use it with my patients, and I use it in my courses and everything. It is an exercise in telling yourself a lie. We don't have to make like 1,000 pros and cons lists and like wrestle it out, and just embodied feedback is actually really fast. Instead of making lists, pros, cons, and going super hard, asking every other person what you should do, asking your body is really important. So telling yourself a lie. This is an activity that I ask somebody to do. I want you to close your eyes. If you're driving, don't do that. But when you are available to, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to focus on your breath. I want you to feel your body, the sensations in your body right now. I want you to tell yourself a lie, a little lie, like something that you know for a fact is not true. The lie that I tell myself when I'm doing this exercise is, I am Beyonce, which obviously I'm not Beyonce. Tell yourself the lie, and I want you to feel what it feels like and repeat it. Repeat the lie and keep feeling. What does it feel like? Okay. Now, I want you to tell yourself a truth. I want you to tell yourself something you know in the fiber of your being is true. So tell yourself a truth at least 3 times repeated. And I want you to feel what it feels like to tell yourself a truth. And in this exercise, for most people, what happens is when they tell themselves a lie, they get body sensation. Now, if you told yourself a lie and your brain went, nope, that's not true, I need you to drop down further. I need you to take the little elevator from your cerebrum. I want you to take that elevator down your throat, down into your chest, down into your belly, lower, 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 lower to the base of your body. Take that elevator down. Now I want you to ask yourself, I want you to tell yourself the lie again. What does it feel like? For most people, it feels like contraction. It feels like discomfort. It feels like feeling. It might even feel like, you get a pain somewhere in your body, or you feel your throat constrict, or your toe twitches, right? It's like, again, your no's and yeses will not be my no's and yeses. So when you tell yourself the truth, what is the shift that it feels like in your body? Is it openness? Is it warmth? Is it spreading? Is it tingling? What does that feel like? Right? So when you ask yourself big life questions, you can do this exercise where you take the elevator from your cerebellum down to your root, and you ask yourself the question, and it comes really quick. Really quick. Here's the next piece. Are you pretending to not know? There are reasons why we pretend to not know. It is wildly inconvenient to make huge life decisions. Changing your job, breaking up with your longtime partner, but moving. Like, this is wildly inconvenient. But if you're pretending that you don't know, you can see this creates a lot of feeling in your body. But we can't keep going in the dark and wake up 5 years later. I mean, you can, but like, why? 5 years later, you wake up and you're like, wow, how did I get here? How did I get here? It's like, bitch, you got here because you ignored yourself. For years, you ignored yourself, and it might have even turned into illness, and you ignored it. Again, this is not to make anybody feel bad, obviously. It's not with judgment. We all do this. Hell, I do this. This is why I'm so passionate about this work, is because I do this, and I've done it, and I've seen how important it is. How important embodiment is when everything is asking you to exit yourself. Dissociate on your phone, go out drinking, over exercise, under exercise, right? Like everything is asking you to not be in your body. It is a wild act. It's a radical act of self-love to notice how the world asks you to exit your body. And instead of exiting your body, you lean further in. So when you make decisions through your body, you're going to realize what is or isn't right for you more quickly. And when you have those feelings of something that makes you feel deeply alive, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should keep doing it. Unless the thing is making you feel deeply, deeply alive. That is the discernment, right? We're not going to love our lives 100% all the time. That's just not how it works. But what we go for is like, how can I love my life enough to keep going? How can I make my life feel life-giving? And at the base of all of this really truly lies, does this have my consent? Because as we know, I'm like a psychopath when it comes to consent, both in my treatment rooms and outside of my treatment rooms. And most people walk around not knowing that so many decisions in their lives actually don't have their consent, and they don't actually want to be doing any of it, but they pretend not to know, or they really don't know. And that's why embodiment is so huge. Does this have your consent? So if there's something big happening for you, or small, anything, the question is, what does it feel like in my body? Go slow with this when you first start with it. Again, it's like patting your head and slapping your belly at the same time. Eventually, when you're in relationship and when you're in groups of people, you will have the ability to tune in real time. But until that happens, it might take a little extra pause. Life is completely fast forward unless we actually build in a little bit of pause. And I did another post on this about people pleasers and how you need time. You need time. You need to buy yourself time to decide whether or not you want to go where you're going. So that's when you say, I will get back to you. I would really like to answer you, but I need to take a moment to process. Our bodies can convince us that that is an emergency, to not immediately no or immediately say yes, right? So where do you feel the most alive? Probably the deepest and the most fulfilling work that I do is helping people understand the language that their body is speaking in real time. And this comes down to, health things and practices and like practical things, but it also just comes down to safety, full body safety and consent and non-panic. I had a patient yesterday. I love working with her. I've worked with her for a while, but she used to always be a person who would panic at any sort of new symptom in her body. Like it would always have to mean something. And it would always be like tied to action steps of like, oh, well, I have a little bit of GI upset. It's probably because of this, and this food. Well, I'm going to do this, and then this. And it was like, even though she appeared like calm on the outside, and while she was explaining this, you could just tell that I could tell from an, intuitively and just the feeling in the room of like, this was really upsetting. And she was just so reactive to every single symptom. And she came in yesterday and she was like, "Oh, I'm having a little GI upset. It's probably because of this and this." And I just know my body's like working it out. And I was like looking at her and I'm like, "Do you realize that you just said that and you had no reaction to it?" And she said, "Well, yeah, that's because I'm working with you and you gave me that mantra. My body is always supporting me. And I've learned to trust that my body has my best interest. And if something is going on, then it's for a reason. And I trust my body." We're talking from somebody who like was so hyper and like spun up and nervous system dysregulated that the first time that I ever did acupuncture on her, I put all the needles in and I like leave the room and they get like a half hour or so to rest. And I came back in the room and she was literally seated, fully upright. And she's like, "Hi." Like when I walked back into the room. And if you have ever experienced acupuncture, most people are either asleep or in a very deep relaxation state. And she was so amped up. And I just thought to myself, like, whoa, we we got some work to do. And then over the years, it's like magical. It's magical to see the transition of patients and clients coming full force into trust, like deep trust of their body. That's the magic of it all. That is the magic of it all. And so when I explain the shit to you too, I'm like, I don't hate one-on-one patient care. I really don't. I love seeing the transformation. I'm still in the exploration part of what it is that I really, you know, need to change, or that's the shift that's, not that I need to change it, but the shift that's naturally unfolding. Um, and so it's all kind of a work in progress. It's all kind of an experiment. But anyway, it lights me the fuck up to watch people transition into trust, safety, and full body consent. Um, and yeah, the work just continues. So if you are interested in learning more about methodically, how do you do this? Like practically, I teach it. I teach it. So I'm going to put that information in the show notes and you can take a look at it and see if that is something that is right for you. As always, I'm always so glad when I get to talk to you and turn on the microphone and, broadcast my voice far and wide. So I thank you very much for being here and I will see you next time.